In this section of diversity in counselling, I would like to talk briefly about the spectrum of sexual orientation and why I think it is important for helpers and counsellors to be open to it. I found a couple of definitions online, one by Psychology Today, which says that sexual orientation is patterns of sexuality, romantic and emotional, one's sense of identity based on attraction. Definition number 2 I found on Google, which says a person's identity in relation to the gender or genders to which they are sexually attracted to. So let's just briefly talk a little bit about the history and inclusivity of sexual orientation in counselling. The topic of sexual orientation or sexuality or sex is still very much fascinating and confusing for many. This is because it is something that takes place in our thoughts and in our minds, which makes it really hard for people to understand. Every individual's sexuality or sexual orientation is slightly or vastly different from the next, just like every individual's appearance, personality is different, and the way they express it as well. People are attracted in their minds to different parts and attributes in others. Some people do not even experience sexual attraction at all. These people are what we call asexual. So you see how of a spectrum sexuality is. A person's sexual attraction can also evolve and change over time. Basically, human attraction is a spectrum. And this spectrum of sexuality or sexual attraction has come a very long way to be accepted and included in cultures and societies around the world. In the past, most societies across the world have been or were conditioned to just one type of sexual orientation, and that is heterosexual, men to women, women to men. And thus shunning or vilifying other manifestations of sexuality. Gay was wrong. Sexuality was a taboo, and it still is in some places and cases around the world, and was only discussed in certain circumstances, perhaps in school. Sexuality is recognized and studied in psychology. As such, it has been explored in counseling and helping work as well. However, many people that work in this industry still struggle to understand this spectrum of sexuality. I believe that the struggle is fueled by the history that we have and being conditioned about sexuality, and therefore I think it is important that helpers are open to educating themselves about the spectrum of sexuality and to be more inclusive in their counseling. Because really what they are doing when they accept a client who identifies differently sexually, they are essentially exercising an unconditional regard, and as such allowing congruence and empathy to flow in the therapeutic relationship. Thank you for listening.